Good afternoon, everyone. This is the Nuts and Bolts Show, episode number 6, the political election edition. I'm Don.
And I'm Sean. Today is a very special show, guys. Probably one of the most important ones we'll ever do. And it's going to be a serious show, not much humor in it, but sometimes you got to step away from that for the good of humanity, right? So I got a chance to sit down with a few people, a few friends of mine, to get their opinions on what's happening in the upcoming election. We wanted to get a chance to sit down with some regular people to kind of see what's on their mind and just to get a different perspective on what's upcoming. So now what we're going to do is we're going to play some clips from those interviews.
One thing I'm kind of worried about is I feel like this year, because of the pandemic and everything and just a number of factors, a lot more people are trying to either vote early or vote by mail. And I feel like our current president doesn't really like that.
I think the most pressing issue for a lot of people, me included, is probably how the economy, shapes up.
I think it's important to just know the issues themselves without the bias of either side.
You're not the only person in this entire country that's wondering that. And if everyone in the country that had that concern, that was thinking, oh, my personal vote doesn't count, I'm just one person. If every single person that was worried about that decided to vote, there would be so many more votes, it can make a pretty big difference.
Oh, your vote matters, man.
Even if you're 100% sure that the election is going to go one way, you should, definitely still vote, because that's only going to happen. Because if everyone has your mindset, then no one would vote.
I understand it better. I decided when Trump was elected, I decided, okay, I should probably educate myself about all this so that when I'm ready to vote, I can make an informed decision. I know what's going on.
Oh, you have your voice. You could be the deciding factor.
Make sure you're informed when you vote, not just when you vote, but when you're, deciding which people to follow or which, policies to follow. Make sure you go to different sources that are reliable.
I'm kind of worried that even after election day, when all the votes are counted, something's going to happen further up the chain, that someone's going to persuade someone to not count people's votes.
Voting matters. It's definitely a way to bring about change.
I think look at the policies rather than the people.
It's kind of like an old adage: if you don't vote, you don't have the right to complain. In reality, you can always complain even if you don't vote. But if you vote, it just means that, hey, you participate in the democratic process.
Some very important words, some very powerful statements there. And I think they really touched on a lot of important things there, including the importance of voting. I really liked what Rory said about the importance of voting. Don, what were you thinking after watching that?
I agree. I think to me, it confirms why you and I decided to do this, because we're just, like we claim to be, two average guys, and we're reaching out to average people on the topics of today. And we try to put the message out in that way that people can understand, maybe a little easier than listening to politics on TV. So really, really good job on the interview, Sean.
Thank you. I'm really happy I got a chance. It's really good to get the opinions of people that aren't us. Because really, we don't know what we're talking about either. We're not professionals, and you obviously know a lot more about politics than I do, but it's something I'm interested in. But I really like getting to hear the opinions of people that, other people, not us.
Pretend to, Sean. I pretend to know about politics. And maybe sometimes it sounds really good, but other times I'm sure I have no idea what I'm saying. But that goes along into where we're going, and that is, when you and I first started this show, we mentioned that, I think in the first one, that we're just average guys, and that we're going to put a show out there for people to understand at our level. And not to say that we're not intelligent people, but we're not political talking heads. We're not career politicians or TV commentators. We're not. We're average people. We're your neighbors that you talk to every day, or somebody you might meet at Starbucks or Dunkin' Donuts, having a conversation just with the average guy or average girl. And that's it. We try to do it in its simplest forms when we do talk about serious things. And we're very new at doing YouTube shows, but that's our message. Sometimes serious and sometimes it'll be comical. And to me, as we try to put something out there that in a simple way, the election to me, and we'll move forward, the election to me is a simple choice. It is a choice. If you can eliminate, and you can eliminate what they're running on, their policies, because the policies on the Republican side, people should know it's a conservative ticket, lowering taxes and so on and so on. And I don't want to get into that per se. And the policies of the Democratic Party are very well defined right now. They are socialistic policies. And you don't have to take my word for it. And you don't have to take Sean's word for it. You can look this up yourself. The policies from the left, from the Democratic side, are more socialistic policies, more government control, higher taxes, more control over what we do, what we drive, what we eat. And they don't hide this fact. You know, Sean, years ago, the Democratic Party was actually not that far from what the Republican Party was. They kind of had the same philosophy and would work together a little bit more, but they were closer together than they are now. And that's why I say this one, which I do believe is probably one of the most important elections of our lifetime, could not be more distinct between the two sides. It is really about a conservative ticket that you believe the country is still good the way it was founded, or you believe the country is not good and it needs this complete overhaul, as our former president said, fundamentally changing the country as we know it. That's really where it is, Sean.
Let me stop you right there. I mean, you make a good point, but I really think it's important to vote based on policies and not parties. So I think it's important to take a look at what the people are going to do. And then if it happens to fall in this political party or the other political party or whatever the case is, that's where you stand. But I really think it's important not to vote based on the party, but vote based on the issues and the policies that the people are going to implement. And if they align with a certain political party than the other one, then so be it.
Well, that's pretty much what I was saying, that the Democratic Party versus the Republican Party. Democrat, really, they should change their name to the Socialist Party because that's the direction they're going. Look at the homepages of Nancy Pelosi or Kamala Harris or Joe Biden. Look at those, look at their websites, and you will see things that represent socialist type policies that you could find in other places, in other countries, that you can argue all day whether they're right or wrong. The fact is that, yes, it is good to know policy, but when you look at the Democratic policies, there's no question they're socialistic policies versus the Republicans that still believe that the founding of this country is still valuable, that the Constitution of this country still means something. To me, and it's my opinion, but to me, that's how simple it is. And do you want, I mean, if you don't mind a socialistic view, then you know what ticket to vote for. If you believe that this country is still good and still has a solid foundation set long ago by the founding fathers, then you know what ticket to vote for. It's that simple. And I don't I don't want to go into specifics, but the last president prior to Donald Trump talked about distribution of wealth, and that is taking money from, say, me, who works very hard for it, and then distributing it to other people who are less fortunate. I don't believe in that. I believe, and we can get into this a little bit further, about the individual, that your success is all about you, and that relying on the government is not the ticket. That's my opinion.
That's good. I mean, it's good that you have an opinion and you formulated it. And that's the first step, is really to see what you support and what side you're on. And regardless of what side you are on, it's important to take a look at the facts and really dive into who you're supporting and the ideas and philosophies that you kind of pass on to other people in your everyday interactions. I don't think we want to try to force anybody or push any political ideas on the people, but I think, at least I don't want to. I think the main goal of this really is just to inform people and really tell them what you're thinking, what I'm thinking, and not to really sway somebody one or the other. What do you think?
Well, I do agree to a point, but there is another side to that coin. If, again, going backwards really quick to the prior president, Mr. Obama, the media left him alone, did not challenge him on anything, and that time frame was no different than what we're doing right now. That was riddled with controversy and odd events that any president would be criticized for. And I don't want to name them all. I don't want to name any of them. But Donald Trump, since coming into office, you probably would have a very hard time finding somebody on the street, unless they were a Trump fan. If they're not a Trump fan, say in the middle, independent, or far left, to find somebody who is like that would say, yes, I know the good that Donald Trump did. You're going to have a hard time finding that, because the media doesn't report on anything good that Donald Trump does unless you're watching Fox News. How many people do you think know that Donald Trump has been nominated for 3 Nobel Peace Prizes already in 3.5 years? 3, that's pretty amazing. And when you look at what he ran on, he has fulfilled his promises almost fully. And any president, any sitting president that was able to do something like that, it would be a shoo-in for the next 4 years. It wouldn't even be close. But the fact that there is so much hatred towards this man, that nobody wants to see that, nobody wants to talk about that, unless you are a Trump fan. And Trump fans are rock solid. That, you know, Trump can do no wrong. I was not a Trump fan. I am now, but I wasn't. And I didn't like the things that people don't like about Trump. I still don't like that today. Even I saw a video not that long ago on his wife, who said the same thing I've said, that his communication style can be brash. He can come off arrogant and cocky. Trump talking about, well, I did this and I did this. Well, there's a reason why Trump is saying that I accomplished this, because nobody else is saying it. So who is going to shoot out the resume of what Trump's candidacy did besides Trump? So I understand the frustration he must have, that since day one, he's been riddled with people who have been after him, including some members of his own party since day one. So it's been, and he has been steadfast, Sean. He has done the things that he said he was going to do, and that I praise.
Yeah, I hear you. I hear you. And I do hear what you're saying about Trump supporters being rock solid, and I would agree with that. But I also think that's a tough line to be on, you know, being too rock solid, supporting every single thing that he says or does. I don't think that's the case. Like, I'm very objective, and I really like to look at the facts, not just in politics, but in everything in general. So I think whatever the situation is, maybe he says something that's controversial. I think those people who support him should take an objective look at that and say, was that right? Was that wrong? Should he face backlash for it? Or is it something that's misunderstood, or just a politically motivated thing from the opposite party to make him look bad? But the moral of it is, I really think it's important to take an objective look and then make your decision, and not just support a person or a political party because that's what you've always done, or because that's what other people that you know do. So basically, my thought process is this: titles and political parties, they don't matter, I don't think. In my opinion, what matters is the policies and what they're going to do to people. So the impacts that specific policies, whatever it is, climate change, wealth tax, whatever, the effect that it's going to have on different groups of people in a majority of the population. That's what I think should be considered when you vote. And whether it's Democrat or Republican, that doesn't matter to me. What matters is that you consider what you're voting for. And it's an important decision. It's a really important right to have, to be able to vote for a president of your country. It's a right that a lot of countries, the people, don't have. So use it wisely, and really, really think about what you want out of this country, what you want out of the person that you want to elect.
Yeah, and that is a good message, Sean, because there are a lot of people who sit on the sidelines and they don't vote, and for different types of reasons. these days, I think you have to. I think it really is important to vote, and your voice, whether you believe it or not, it does count. And it's not just you. It could be you and your neighbors. You bring them with you to go vote. You and your family, you bring them with you when you go vote. But it's important to have a voice because the parties are so different now that, it's kind of scary when you think about it. Are we going on the right path as a country? I didn't believe we were under the last president. And I was worried about this president, but I'm a lot more confident. And Sean, I have predictions later on, some predictions, but what scares me is what's to come. And we're seeing this around the country now. And it isn't just about Donald Trump. It's about racial injustice, or what people might believe is racial injustice. And you're seeing news after news of this shooting here or a shooting there, and then right after that there is rioting and there's looting, and I'm very concerned if Donald Trump were to win that this is something that we are going to see rise. And I'm tired of that. I really am, because that is not the answer. That is not the America that I grew up in. And Sean, I think all Americans are very familiar with what these pictures are showing right now. We've seen it since, the COVID shutdown, when the rioting first started with the George Floyd case, and nobody was on the side of the officers during that time frame. But this, to me, is just not the answer. Burning police cars, burning flags, burning stores, looting. There is a way to get a message across that is more productive than what we saw on television. And your thoughts with that, Sean? I'm sure we're probably pretty much on the same line here with this.
To a certain extent, right? I believe that in America, one of the major rights that we have is the right to protest. And I think it's important that people feel comfortable exercising that right. And the way that certain people have gone about it, rioting and looting, obviously I don't agree with at all. And I support the police. I support the police department. Whether I lose friends for that would be unfortunate, but it's true. I think they do a very vital job to the community. And obviously there are some bad people in the world, and I'm sure that they've made it to the police department, but I don't think that means that in a whole, in a nutshell, every single police officer deserves to be abused and treated horrible for the things that certain people have done.
Yeah. And yes, you're correct. We have the right as American citizens to protest and assemble, but we have that right to do so peacefully. And I don't care what the situation is. There is nothing that I can look at as justification of going into a Target and smashing the windows and taking TVs.
I agree. I agree. I think at a certain point it evolved from protesting to certain people seeing an opportunity and taking it, right? Seeing an opportunity of civil unrest and taking it to break into a Walmart to steal a 70-inch, HLED TV.
Yeah. Yeah. And listen, this country has scars. Tell me what country doesn't have its own internal scars. But this country, to me, even with those scars, is still the best country there is on the planet. And that we've come a long way. And when they talk about racism, I don't believe it is what they call it to be, that it's widespread. I don't believe that at all. I mean, Barack Obama, who I don't agree with it at all, was the president of the United States. That did not happen by accident. That happened because there were people who voted for him, white, black, brown, red, across the board voted for him. And there are people that are in high positions, whether it's CEOs of companies, coaching sports teams, in political careers, that are different races, and even Buttigieg, who is what does he call himself, Sean? He's a homosexual. So this country, as far as sensitivity goes, has come an extremely long way. And it's unfortunate that when there is an incident that occurred with George Floyd, which again, nobody agreed with those officers. Not one person I've ever talked to agreed. But then you have the narrative that is then taken and it's utilized on other incidents that have occurred where when you look at the video, the police were justified in what they did, but then that narrative from prior is then used again against the police who did nothing wrong, and it continues and it spins out of control. And to me, this is not constructive protesting. This is dividing protesting. And we're going to go further with some other pictures later on, but that's where I come from, Sean, and I get passionate about it because this is not the America that I want to see. I don't want to see this for you. I don't want to see this for me, for my neighbor, for anyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think every life is precious. My fellow brother is an American, and anybody who lives in this country. And I think it's unfortunate anybody loses their life for any reason. But I was never in the situation that these officers were in, and not just a specific situation, but you can name multiple. So I don't know their thought process. I wasn't given the training that they were. I don't know how I would have reacted in the same situation with the same firearm. All I know is that I think it's unfortunate what has happened to people.
Yeah.
Both people who have lost their lives and people who have lost their businesses through looting and rioting, and just everybody. America seems to be pretty divided.
Okay. And Sean, you know, I talked about, I had some predictions, and really my prediction is who I believe is going to win the presidency after Tuesday. And we might not even know who wins for weeks or months after, depending on how it goes and if there's legal battles in different states. But my prediction, I believe that Trump has it. I believe that when it's all said and done, I don't think it'll be that close. I really don't. And there's a reason for that, Sean. And you know, I like YouTube. I've watched YouTube a long time. I probably said that in other shows. But since you and I have put together this show, I've watched YouTube even more just to get other perspectives from different people who are kind of doing the same thing that we're doing. And I've now seen quite a few videos from the African-American community that seem to be awakening. You know, African-Americans, whether they want to agree with it or not, or admit to it or not, there is a claim made by certain people or certain groups that African-Americans or inner city minorities vote Democrat always. And the Democrats have there's this idea that the Democratic Party loves it when people were crossing the border illegally because those people were going to be considered to be Democratic voters. But now with some of these videos that I've seen, I think people are starting to pay attention to, like you said, substance. Now, the Democratic Party will say that we're all for trying to get people out of poverty and off of government assistance. But really, when you look at the stats, and you don't take my word for it, you can go and look at these sites yourself. Every time the Democratic Party has been in power, the number of people who have claimed government assistance hasn't gone down, it's gone up. And quite frankly, it's interesting because Mr. Trump, President Trump, who has been in office 3.5, almost 4 years, the number of people who were on government assistance actually was going down. Due to COVID, it has spiked up again, but it's an interesting contrast. So this video is a man who is, he's an African-American male who's talking to some of the people in his community. And go ahead, Sean, play clip number 1.
Before Trump was the president, did not everybody love him? In their music videos, rap videos, all the magazines. He got awards from black communities in the NAACP. Everybody loved him. But then when he came to president, they said he's a racist. Why? I'm gonna tell you why. Because when he came into politics, what he said, drain the swamp. He started taking out all the not just politicians, the evil, corrupt politicians. Fired them, took them out, made them go away, and put in his people. Did you know that since he's been president, the economy has been better than it ever been? Unemployment at an all-time low, more jobs created than ever before. He stopped making us an importer and made us an exporter. To me, that means we make more money. People talk about the wall that he wanted to build over there in Mexico. Do you know why he wanted to build the wall? And remember, they said that he was racist because he said that my brothers and sisters is Mexican is murderers and rapists and stuff, right? That's not what he said. If you listen to the clip, he said that the MS-13, the gang, are rapists and murderers, not Mexicans. Not Mexicans. But they twisted that to make everybody around us believe that he's a racist, okay? Then they say, make America great again. What does he mean? When was America great? When you talk about make America great again, what he means is make America, like what I just said, an exporter again. Have jobs again. Have people believe in the American dream again, that they want to come to this country and they know that they're going to make it. Had nothing to do with race. All right? Not only that, the man gave funding for the next 10 years. This has never been done. For historic black colleges and universities, the HBCUs. Barack Obama didn't even do that.
Okay, so right there, you know, that to me was interesting, his perspective, and he is now trying to convince, you know, somebody that he knows really well, or at least bring out the facts, which are important. And I was really caught by this, and he continues, Sean, so play clip number 2.
Guys back.
He been bringing them back. And that's why they did this coronavirus
like
shit.
you say the export. Now we'll be the biggest export instead of China.
Exactly. He brought steel manufacturing, the automobile industry. They said that was dead. And look at us now, booming. They hit us with coronavirus. You notice that when coronavirus hit, they said everybody got to stay in the house. Nobody could go out. But yet, if you're Black Lives Matter or Antifa, you could go out and protest and burn shit down and nobody's going to say nothing. But the coronavirus is so bad. We out here standing with masks. You feel me? Why? It's an agenda. So, bro, the reason why I'm having this conversation with you is because it's important. Your vote is very important this year. They've been getting the black vote. You know, Lyndon B. Johnson said that I'm going to have the voting Democrat for the next 200 years. And we do, blindly. Latinos and blacks. We vote Democrat blind as hell. Don't even know why we do. We just do. Did you know that the black people are the ones that started the Republican Party? Did you know that? We were Republicans. They crippled us with welfare, Section 8. They kicked us out the homes, bro. Made the woman look at you and be like, I don't need you. I'll take care of by the state. I'll go get food stamps. Which led you to be upset, me to be upset, go out and sell drugs because we're trying to prove to our family that we can provide even though they ain't giving us no jobs. Then we get locked up under that crime bill. And then we're locked up and we're stuck there. That was under Biden.
And I mean, that's pretty powerful stuff. And, you know, like I said, I've heard other videos too, different people who claim the same. And like I said, it really kind of caught me, you know, like, not that I get emotional very often, but this one did. You know, I kind of got emotional, and you'll understand why in this very last clip, Sean.
If you register to vote, bro, so you can vote for the right person who's going to help us out, man. Who's going to do more for this, not just even us as black people, because it's not about that. We need to even stop calling each other black. We American, bro. You feel me? We are American.
That right there is everything that everything we've been talking about. He could be my neighbor. He could be somebody I meet on the street. He's an American. How do you not love something like that? How do you not love what he just said? Because it's true. It doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. We are Americans and we share the same values. And we're here. We should be here for one another. And I thought that was a really good video to share, because that to me is it, 100%.
Yeah, man. I mean, you mentioned something. He also actually mentioned the same thing that you mentioned, that blacks and Latinos have historically voted Democrat and people expect them to vote Democrat. And I don't like that idea that you can assume what somebody's going to do just based on the race. To me, what that sounds like like racism. You're going to assume this person's going to do this certain thing just because of the color of their skin. You're going to assume that they're going to vote this way just because they're black or they're mixed or whatever. I don't like that idea. I've never really did like that idea.
Are you asking me that, Sean?
No, I'm just saying, because I mean, there could be black people can vote Republican, they can vote independent, they can vote Green Party, just like Asians can do the same, and white people can do the same, and Latinos can do the same.
Very, listen, that's in a perfect world. But, the stats are the stats. When they break down the state of New York, the majority of Democratic votes come from minorities, inner city. So they know, Democrats know, all they have to do is keep throwing them little crumbs to stay with us. They get their vote. And right or wrong, and for whatever reason, it's really been the trend and this way it's been happening. But that, to me, I think those days may be coming to a close. And you had an interview with Jessica, and she said, and this is a younger female, but she said she wasn't really paying attention to politics, but now she is. And that, to me, I think is something that is now going across the country. The people are now starting to pay attention. And whether that's because of COVID and people were locked in houses and had no choice but to watch the horrific pictures and videos that we saw during looting and rioting, and to try to piece together, why is that happening in my backyard? Whether that's the case or not, I don't know. But what I do know and what I do feel is that there is change. And if President Trump is elected again, which I believe he will be, and as long as he keeps to his campaign promises, I think this country is headed for a really, really good direction. And it may be a long time before there is another Democrat who holds that seat in that particular house because of that. And that's what you said. Democrat, Republican, if their values match our values, we would vote for them. But the Democratic Party, they're not really matching our values right now. I mean, to me, the way I look at it.
Right. I'm glad you added that little part at the end, a little caveat, the way that you look at it. And that's, right. Like I said, I'm very rational. I'll look at things objectively. So that's the way that I would approach something. And I hope that other people do the same thing. I really think it's really important to look at something and make sure that what you're voting for accomplishes goals that you have in mind, and not really just vote mindlessly, not really just choose something because that's what you seem like you're expected to do. And that's why, one of the reasons why I really don't like the idea that either black people or Hispanic people, whatever, are going to vote Democrat blindly or just because they think they're supposed to. You're supposed to vote whatever you feel is right, whatever you believe in, whoever supports what you think is the best thing to do for the country. That's what you're supposed to vote for. And any other way, voting just because your family's always voted Democrat, if you ask me, that really dilutes the pool of people. It really doesn't give justice to what people truly think about the country and where they want it to go.
Yeah. Sean, before we get on to the next part, and I see you got the pictures up, I wish I could give the name of the guy that we just watched, but he's attached to another YouTube channel that belongs to somebody else, and I just don't know his name. Unfortunately, I just don't. But that his information to me was golden. And this, to me, going forward, this is America. What we're going to show right now, to me, this is America, where Americans who are level-headed can protest peacefully, as you can see right there, and that the police, they are not our enemy. That there are bad people. Yes, there are bad people, and some of them wear the blue. Some of them could be doctors. Some can be construction workers. Some could be your next door neighbor. You just don't know. But racism, to me, is not systemic. It is not widespread through the country. And look at the pictures. What do you see in that peaceful protesting pictures right there? You see white. You see black. You see Asian. Everybody is there. And if you notice that when this all first started, it was a mixed bag right from go of different cultures and different races in those walking protests that we saw, the peaceful ones. That's what I saw. Continue, Sean.
Well, I mean, I think it's important to mention that you have a mixed bag of people also in the not peaceful ones. So you also have your black, your Hispanic, your white, your Asian, your Koreans, and the ones that aren't peaceful as well.
That's very true, Sean. And we could talk about why that is, but like, you know, those are people who are with radical thoughts, with an agenda or a narrative that they're trying to get across and trying to impose on good people.
I don't know about that, because it seems like to me that certain people during the civil unrests, like in Kenosha, Wisconsin, they use this opportunity to make a buck, really, to steal, to loot and riot. And I really feel bad for that, because what that did was that truly diluted the ideas and the thoughts and the true emotions that were falling from these people who were trying to protest peacefully for something that they believed was wrong with the world and wrong with the country, which they have the right to do, and I encourage them to do. I encourage anybody to support whatever they believe, as long as they're doing it peacefully and they're doing it in the right way. And I don't know, maybe the ones that turned violent, they weren't just looters or rioters. Maybe they truly were protesters as well. I really don't know, and I don't know what their mindset was. I don't know what their thoughts were, what was racing through their mind when they did what they did. And I don't know if I'll ever know, but I don't think violence to combat violence, I don't think that solves anything. What do you think?
Listen, you know, I don't know if we need to debate on what the motives are of the people who are burning down buildings and shooting police officers, looting a Target or a Walmart. We don't, you know, we may, like you said, we might not know. It may be very selfish reasons just for the individual, or it is a narrative that, whether it's carried out by BLM or Antifa, trying to incite other people, we don't know. And that's fine. But to me, I believe in right and wrong. And I believe that the pictures that we show right now, this is right. Because the people that we live with, the people that are our neighbors, the people who are our friends, share common values. Whether we want to acknowledge that or not, we do. And it's slowly coming out, Sean, like I said, an awakening. You know, neighbors, we work hard, we serve our country, we get together for parties. That's how it should be, to me. And this is not a dream, although this country is full of dreamers, but dreamers to the extent that we as individuals, if we work hard, we can accomplish anything. And we work hard together, there is nothing that will stop us. It's about people, like you said, Sean, and it's about the younger people. You don't have any children yet, but I do. But it is about our children and what we want to leave for them when we are gone, and the message that we want to leave for them when we're gone. And we want them to be better than us and not to continuously go backwards. But the last presidential, Barack Obama, there were studies that were done that people believed that the best days of this country were over, that we were on a decline. That now has been reversed, and a new study has come out where people now, 50-something% of Americans now believe that our best days are still ahead of us. And that will never change. As long as we can sit here and call ourselves Americans, as long as we can sit here and join hands together, regardless of race or religion, our best days ahead are still forward. And that is important.
Well, guys, I think the moral of the story is that it's important now more so than ever, at least now more so than I can even ever remember, to vote and to truly consider who you're voting for and what you want the next 4 years of the country to look like. It's really important to think about what matters most to you and what matters most to your family, because your vote really does count. And if it matters to you, it matters to other people. And it's kind of like the saying, there's no such thing as a stupid question, that other people are going to have the same question that you have. It's likened to this situation where what you matters to you matters to other people as well. And never think that your vote doesn't count. Never think that just because you're one in a country of 300+ million, that what you have to say doesn't matter, because it does. What you have to say always matters, as long as you're willing to voice it. And Donna, I mean, I'm really happy that you were on with me, because you're obviously a lot more defined in what you believe than I am. And I think that's really good of you to be able to put your feelings and thoughts out there like that.
Well, I hope what I said made some sense. even if just a little bit. And I am older, Sean, so sometimes people will look at that. Well, the older guys should be more wise. I don't know. Maybe that's the case, maybe not. But in truth, we're Americans, and we should find that pride again that we had. And we should love our country because our country is beautiful. And we are fathers, we are mothers, we are sons and daughters, but we are Americans. The show is a ridiculous show, but always ended on a very solid message. Jerry Springer show, a very silly show, but he would end with, take care of yourselves and each other. And that, to me, it's all right in there.
Yeah, man. It's important to vote. It truly is, and it's important to vote smart. Now, with that being said, guys, this was a lot more serious than we usually are, and probably, like I said, one of the most important shows we'll ever do. Whether a lot of people will see it or not, I don't know. But for the ones that do see it, I think I'm speaking with Don and saying, make sure you vote. Don't forget. Also, vote what you believe is right. Don't let anybody sway your opinion. You vote what you believe is right, regardless whether it's Democratic or Republican, conservative or liberal, or socialist or non-socialist. Vote what you believe is right for the country. But make sure you don't take that vote lightly. Truly consider your thoughts and the implications of what you're going to do. Now with that, I think this is the end, right? Guys,
Yeah.
Make sure to like and subscribe. Really happy to be here. I'm Sean.
I'm Don.
Till next time, good night.
As for the peace that we would preserve, I wonder who among us would like to approach the wife or mother whose husband or son has died in South Vietnam and ask them if they think this is a peace that should be maintained indefinitely. Do they mean peace, or do they mean we just want to be left in peace? There can be no real peace while one American is dying someplace in the world for the rest of us. We're at war with the most dangerous enemy that has ever faced mankind in his long climb from the swamp to the stars. And it's been said if we lose that war, and in so doing lose this way of freedom of ours, history will record with the greatest astonishment that those who had the most to lose did the least to prevent its happening. Well, I think it's time we ask ourselves if we still know the freedoms that were intended for us by the founding fathers. Not too long ago, two friends of mine were talking to a Cuban refugee, a businessman who had escaped from Castro. And in the midst of his story, one of my friends turned to the other and said, "We don't know how lucky we are." And the Cuban stopped and said, "How lucky you are. I had some place to escape to." And in that sentence, he told us the entire story. If we lose freedom here, there's no place to escape to. This is the last stand on earth.